Ashton, get over here and make me one of them musics of yours. Ashton looked up from the stove and she turned around slowly towards her husband, Billy. Now, Billy, you know I don't make no musics. I done told you 1,000 times. I sing songs. He shot a glance back across the room at her. All right, then. You move that sassy little behind of yours over here. Sit down and sing me one of them songs. She thought on it a moment, then took her time walking across the room. She picked up her guitar on the way, and then when she was nice and ready, sat down on the couch right next to her husband. She started to play and said, "What do you think about this one?" "Oh, beautiful damsel in the garden, the soldier he was passing by, and he stopped to view one single lady, saying, 'Purty fair miss, would you fancy me? You're not the man of noble honor, you're not the man I had taken you to be, for you wouldn't impose on a single lady who's fitting for your bride to be.'" Her husband smiled and said, "Yeah, that's one of those I like. You keep singing that one." "I have a true love in the army, and he's been gone for 7 long years. And if he's gone for 3 years longer, no man on earth shall marry me." Ashton had been born around the turn of the century in a little coal mining town not far from the Cumberland Gap, that part of central Appalachia where Kentucky and Tennessee and Virginia are all pushing at each other to get out of the way. She was born into a coal mining family. Her daddy was a coal miner and had died down in the mines, just like her granddaddy. Her husband, Billy, was a coal miner, and someday he would die down there too, just like all of her uncles. There wasn't a whole lot going on for the people there in that coal mining town, and there wasn't much going on for Ashton herself. She wasn't what you'd call pretty. She had a real low brow. Her nose was thin and pointed. Her lips were weak, and her chin was almost not there. Her little black eyes always seemed to look out with sorrow. She had big puffs of hair that were dark, the color of a squirrel's pelt, like when there's going to be a real bad winter that year. Now that she was getting on in her 20s, her body was starting to fill out to look more like the bodies of the women in the old country, that little town where her family had come from. But the one thing she did have going for her was her singing voice. As a little girl, she had spent time in secret learning the old songs from her grandmother. She had spent time in secret learning to play the guitar, because her daddy had always said, "Guitar ain't no instrument for a woman to play." And her husband, Billy, loved the songs that she sang. Billy, he tells me I got a voice like a tanager, like one of those wild birds that sings from the top of the trees that you never see, but you always hear. She would sing those songs for him every afternoon as she filled his pail with a meal, so that when she gave it to him and he went to start a shift down in the mine, she would have in her mind the thought that he would at least have a nice meal in his belly for those 8 hours and a nice song in his heart to help him through that shift. Now, they didn't have a lot of money because they were coal miners. And so whenever she could, she would pick up extra work in town doing odd jobs. But most people in a coal mine in town didn't have extra money to give out to a person like Ashton. So when she did pick up extra work, it was usually over in the coal mining operator's house. He and his wife would hire Ashton to come and clean their home. And that's where she was on this particular day, singing a little song to herself to keep herself busy.